And welcome back to the Flickering Torch Podcast. This is Mr. DeadScott.
And smite this.
And guess what, folks? I moved, so we're talking to you from the deep vines and tubes and pipes of the interwebs.
Yeah.
Because I'm a jerk and I moved away for work.
We really ran a long string and two cans together, and that's how we're doing the podcast. So
yeah, I'm surprised it's working as well as it is. I really am.
Yeah. Right? But we have an exciting new podcast today. You have the honors.
Okay, so I had this really crazy idea a while back in honor of Rick and Morty returning, because we're huge nerds and fans, that we're actually going to break down the game called Roy, A Life Well Lived. That was played in Season 2, Episode 2. I know we're a little late on this, but I haven't seen anyone else give a crack at it yet, at Blitz and Chits.
Blitz and
Chits! Which I kind of want to go to, even though some of the games look incredibly deadly.
Oh, yeah. Who cares?
So without further ado, let's jump into this Morty.
Okay, yeah. So, thanks for joining us again. Let's I guess, get into how we define Roy.
Yeah. So, we'll take turns doing this, because obviously we're not in the same room like we used to. So Roy, from what we know about Roy, is it's definitely a fictional game. It's on the TV show Rick and Morty,
which you should watch, of course.
Oh, hands down. If you're not watching it, I'm sorry. You really should find a way to watch it.
It's a game that one plays in their mind. Basically, they put on a helmet, and it brings them into like a virtual reality. So you play out the life of a digital character named Roy.
Roy.
Horrible name choice. Sorry, Roy listeners.
Could be worse. Could be Brad.
Yeah, it's true.
I will not apologize for that. Most Brads, if not all that I've met, have been horrible people. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. Your parents messed up.
You done did messed up.
So Roy's kind of like a full immersion experience. Kind of like a good example would be like The Matrix. You get hooked into this device and you experience this life, if you will. And Roy lets one person kind of, or at least the person's playing the game, kind of experience the human condition or human life. And so since Blitz and Chits is set in a alien world, I could see where that would be kind of entertaining. Even as a human, I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And at least I think I'm human.
It's kind of weird to think that in an alien port where there are only two humans, which would be Rick and Morty, that there's a human game for aliens to experience the obviously dull life of humans, according
Do you think
to
it's
Morty's
because
playthrough.
They just got bored abducting us, and they're like, okay, I think we can figure this out from here.
Right. Well, what is the one with where they're trying to get the portal algorithm or whatever? They have simulation power, so might as well
That's true.
Make a game called Roy. Roy. So what we know about Roy, you start the game, it looks like about age 7 or 10. And by the looks of it, which you figured out, it's probably set in the 60s or 70s. I'm going to go with the 60s.
At least when you start.
Yeah, at least when you start. Time travel is different. First, endgame speed versus the real world, obviously. Otherwise, you would live through your life before you finish the actual game.
Oh, yeah. And the good example is, like, what we can tell, like, Rick goes from the age of, like, 7 to 10 all the way to, like, his mid-30s within, like, 8 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah. Which
Morty.
I have now a new theory, actually, just thinking about this. But we'll go back to that.
Say that for the theory crafting portion.
Yeah. There appears to be paths one can follow. So in Morty's case, he chooses the path of the athlete to get the girl. He was a high school athlete. He dated the girl. Then he lived the American dream, and having kids, working, dying, etc.
Yeah, and that was kind of an interesting thought when I was kind of breaking it down too, thinking about it. It's like, there seems to be this path. I don't know if it's a well-defined path or just like a loosely guideline that you can kind of follow.
Yeah.
Again, we'll get into that, but it was really fascinating to kind of look at that part. Let's see. So, obviously, there seem to be, as well, along with like these paths, there seem to be some real-time actions and consequences that any human would face in their real world, both mental and physical. Like, for example, Morty getting cancer and successfully beating it. But then this popped up in my head too real quick, like also seeing Morty like fail to be the star athlete, like he was going to be, you know, make it big and go pro, and like have to like live with that crippling feeling of like, oh my god, I'm not as good as I thought I was, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
You know, all that anxiety that all the rest of us live with normally.
Man, I thought Darkest Dungeon was stressful.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, I mean there's some rules to the game. We just don't know, but we're gonna theorycraft those later.
Oh yeah, we're gonna dive real deep into those. There seems to be a high score or like a reward system when you play the game, which we'll also dive into, but that was kind of fun to also think about and break down.
Yeah.
And then you thought of this, so I'm gonna let you read it because I thought it was actually really clever.
Oh yeah, so since it's a full dive virtual reality, Morty has the inability to tell the difference between the real world and the Roy world once he's out. So is that a one-time effect or every time? What we know is that Rick isn't fazed by it, and he's even able to communicate while playing the game.
Right.
And the term full dive comes from Sword Art Online, which it's an anime, but that's what the term came from. So in that, you are in a full dive. You live basically in the game. You feel like you're actually there. At that point in Sword Art Online, the admins can communicate within the game to the players, outside interference. So maybe it's like that, where it's just kind of like a broadcast to the person playing that Rick's able to communicate and stuff like that. But it seems like he's not affected, but he is a freaking genius. So maybe Morty's just too dumb to...
Yeah, Rick is the smartest mammal in everything, allegedly, so...
Yeah. Making a portal gun, chump change right there.
Yeah, no shit, right? Although I'd love to have one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just for the sake of teleportation within itself. Anyway, so baseline rules for Roy. Based on what we've seen, what we've watched, what we've kind of experienced, there seem to be some ground rules for the game Roy.
Yeah.
So obviously, the laws of physics and the Earth that we live in seem to definitely apply. For example, gravity still exists. This isn't one of those things where it's just like, oh, hey, like, I can float. I can fly.
Yeah.
I'm a superhero.
It's the realm of realism, basically.
Right. Exactly. This one's still up for debate, and we can kind of go into this one because I do want to explore this concept. There seem to be paths that you follow or like set story points. And like an example that like I found is that Rick says that's the difference between you and me, Morty. I never go back to the carpet store. So is it a set path that you always go to the carpet store, or is the carpet store always there? Or it's kind of tricky. Like, you had a good counterpoint to that.
Yeah, where just because Rick and the way he lives his life, he is not the type of person. He's always kind of like, let's move on, take the challenge, never look back kind of guy. Whereas Morty kind of dwells on the small things and his inability to move on or to make much of life. Whereas Rick will just roll through, burn Social Security. Hey, he'll find a way, just keep going. So it could be pointing out to his like personal character and not actually a plot point he's pointing out there.
Right, because that's the thing, is like Roy seems to be kind of this almost like this blank slate. Like, you can be whoever you want. I mean, it's a little limiting in some aspects because you start out as a man.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't give you like a gender choice option, which would be interesting to see for like Roy 2 or like a sequel.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You start out with kind of like a blank slate. Like, you're this kid. You have... Even the teacher says at one point when Roy's in school, he's like, pay attention. These are the years in your lives where you can define yourself and become whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so it gives you that opportunity to build Roy however you want. It's almost like a blank character sheet. Like,
yeah.
Hey, here you go, except, you don't have to worry about dice rolls. You can just go for it.
Yeah.
Which would be great for me.
Yeah.
My dice rolls are shit.
Yeah. Put more points in the luck, please.
Charisma 20? Yeah.
That's a good stat, honestly.
It's underrated, heavily underrated.
Oh yeah. So obviously there's a start and finish to Roy.
Yeah, I do like that there is like a finish to Roy. It's not like the mobile games you see nowadays that are like, endless dungeon runners or what do they call? What are those games called?
You're talking about like the randomly generated.
Not the randomly generated ones, but like the ones that never end. You just keep playing until you die.
Oh yeah, I forgot the technical name.
Yeah, there's a name for it, but I do like how there's a start and finish. Like it starts you out at an age where you can critically think to some aspect and make decisions, and old enough to where you're going to remember things that could greatly affect your life down the road.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was really clever when they wrote that. Is like, yeah, like 7 to 10 seems to be like the right age to start the game, and then finishing it obviously is death.
Well, you have to start at like 7 or 10 or so because you have to match your current intelligence. Otherwise, it'd break the realism, I think, too much if you didn't start at that kind of higher level of intelligence.
So do you think that was like a good baseline set then? Because like if you started out with Rick's level of intelligence, like that kid would be like teaching, advanced physics.
Yeah.
And cosmology and things of that nature.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's like by that time you've learned how to function, your brain's fully grown, things like that. You just lack real world experience and understanding, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you're fully there. Now you throw a full adult into that, and it's like, okay, well, you don't really break the realism at all. You just a smart kid.
Right, yeah, because, I mean, like, the average adult, and I'm probably guilty of this as well, is knowledgeable in certain things, but not everything.
Yeah.
I could see where that would be kind of a little bit cheating, if you will, if you went in with, like, full intelligence, and it probably would take away from the fun of the game.
Screw it. Let's do it. Let's cheat. Let's hack. Hack life. Woo!
Wall hacks. That alone would be interesting. So let's see. So other baseline rules we can understand is that like the player who plays Roy basically seems to have some freedom in their life choices, kind of like most humans have, given certain circumstances. But it seems like Roy, it's almost like they just kind of like take all the chains off and let people dive in. There's no like social economical, there's no like how you were raised, you could break all the rules if you wanted while staying within the rules.
Yeah, well, it said a life well lived, and it seems like caring parents, caring family or loved ones or things like that. I don't know. I don't know if the title gives it away, but it seems like you're not mistreated, but at the same time, yeah, it seems free of any of those standard life hardships.
Yeah, it does seem like when you pop in and start Roy, it seems like, because like with the way the mom's dressed, her hair, her clothing, it looks like that kind of traditional 50s kind of mindset where like moms stay at home and loving and cooking and cleaning, and dad has a job and drinks, but not any of that like dark side of it, because it doesn't seem like when Morty plays, it doesn't seem like he's miserable. It just seems like he's bored until he hits to that point where he's an adult and old enough to be miserable, like the rest of us, and kind of progress from there. So yeah, it doesn't seem like there's no traumatizing childhood experience that would like predetermine a path for Roy.
But that, I mean, if it was, it would make a game quite boring, or take away from
or quite interesting, depending on how you look at it. Because like if you could force yourself into a traumatic childhood experience, then you could almost role play Roy to a whole new level.
It's true, but from a game standpoint, I don't think people want to go to Blitz and Chips.
As like an arcade game, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
That's perfect, because it's like an arcade game's supposed to last like what, 20 to 30 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
If you fully beat it.
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense. That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, and that kind of gets to like set story points again. That's where most of the debate come from. We'll have to, because Rick is the type of character to move on, whereas Morty accepts death, but at the same time, like, is there set points, or is it completely free? Or I just came up with the idea as like what if, the real time is the actual time in game, but all you do is live highlights events where you make these kind of decisions and you feel those feelings and stuff, because obviously it happens really quickly, but did he live the whole life, or maybe he just lived those those highlights, those main events in life that are like the turning point in one's life?
I think if it was like that, it'd be really boring.
Well,
Like if you just had those highlights, like it would be quick and exciting, but the way Morty reacts, like where's my wife? Like there was that like sense of urgency and love and compassion and genuine worry.
but you gotta think that this is full dive where your full emotion, feelings, nervous system is all attached to this. So the things that do happen, albeit short, feel real. So like getting married, having kids, owning the carpet store, even if it's short, it's fully impacting your brain. And we don't obviously know how the device acts to your brain. It could make it seem real or longer than it is. But I don't know. That was just a theory.
Well, it's interesting, yeah. Like, and we can definitely dive into that a little bit more, because it's definitely what I want to talk about, because like, and it kind of falls into our kind of next points here with character development, gameplay, like, kind of talks about, I'm going to skip this one part, but we'll come back to it. It's kind of a good example of kind of like, brain in the vat or simulation theory.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a perfect example of it, because it's like, okay, how long was I in that thing, but how many lives did I experience? How much time did I comprehend?
Yeah.
Because the brain's not really bound, I would argue, by like the device that humans have made of time. Like, the brain interprets what it interprets, and it processes what it experiences.
Yeah.
So at the accelerated rate for Roy, it could easily process a whole life worth of living. But that's the question: do you remember the whole life, part of it? It's kind of fascinating. It's cool to kind of dissect.
Your brain's a giant CPU and RAM stick, so you could throw a hell of a lot at it than what we currently use it for. So and
No, I agree.
Morty was taken back by it, but he didn't know the rules. If you went into it knowing the rules of how the machine works, like, okay, the time's going to be altered, here's this, you might be able to comprehend things a lot easier than Morty just getting a helmet slapped on him and then boom, he's in another life.
Oh yeah, he totally got trial by fire. Like, he was just thrown straight into that thing. No warning, no preconception, no knowledge whatsoever. Game going in literally blind, which is kind of a cool concept. Because I can't remember the last time I've actually ever played a game completely blind. Like, just bought it off the shelf, had no clue what it was like, never played it before, never watched a video, never heard anything, and just jumped right in.
It's dangerous these days.
Oh yeah, these days it's horribly dangerous and expensive, but that's kind of a cool concept. Like, Morty literally got to just like dive completely in to an unknown world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a new life. He was given a new life, and you can see how someone takes their life given to them when they don't expect it. But if you knew that you're going to live a new life, you'd probably try those more extreme things like Rick did, where he burnt his Social Security and things like that.
Yeah, because like Rick had the experience of playing it once before, so he might have already lived out like his first life. That may have been like life anywhere between 2 to 2 million for all we know.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is how the character interprets it. Because like knowing in, I would probably take some risks, knowing that like, oh, this isn't real. I have a second life. Let's just go ham and Roy.
Yeah, that's true. Like, because Morty was living it like he would live his life, which would probably be pretty terrifying when if and when he realized that concept. Because it's like, oh god, that's how I would live my life. I would try to be the high school football star, to be the moron who bags groceries, or works in the carpet store. Not saying that they're morons, but that's just kind of how it plays out in Morty's mind.
Yeah.
And then dies from a pretty dumb related accident.
Yeah. Which, do you think Rick might have intentionally brought him to that machine to not fix Morty, but to make him realize or understand? Because like they walk by all the other games that are possible and go right to Roy.
It could go many ways on that, because like Rick is the type of person who could easily just like grab one at random and like, hey, like, oh, I played this before, I think you'll like it, let's just try it and go from there.
Because we're in Blitz and Chits.
We're in Blitz and Chits. But at the same time, like, I could totally see Rick subtly and like subconsciously and not actually caring but caring as a grandfather and showing Morty what his life could be.
Yeah.
Which goes into all the fan theories of, is Morty a genius and Rick kind of holds him back intentionally, or
No.
or is Morty just a moron? And Rick's just trying to give him a decent life as a moron, because the knowledge of everything is so crippling and burdening that Rick has to, drug himself. But it's an interesting kind of little theory on that, because it's like I could see it, whereas like Rick's kind of subtly pushing Morty to like, hey, like, this is what your life probably is going to be, so let's do a test run to see if you're comfortable with it, or just kind of throw you to the wolves and see if you want to change something about it.
Yeah. So getting back on track, we did count 12 tickets for him playing Roy, and we have no idea the statistics or the rewards, achievements, but we know he lived to age 55. There were some check marks and X's on some category boxes, but we don't know what's written because it's alien, obviously.
And too small for us to actually read.
Yeah, so he got 12 tickets, so that kind of brings up the idea we were talking about, a reward system. So whether it's like a fixed amount, or if it's by age, or it's by life goals, achievements, but that's kind of hard to measure.
I mean, we can totally dive into that and just kind of like just tear the crap out of it, because like I have some theories with that.
Wow.
Because like,
let's theory craft.
Okay, let's jump. So let's jump into, because like I really, and this has been bugging me, and it's such a nerdy thing to geek out about, but like I really want to know how that reward and high score system works.
Oh yeah.
Like, I have theories to go with that, and as we dive into my madman dreams, let's jump into that briefly. Like, so from my interpretation, there was the pie chart.
Yep.
There was the number of years, and then there was the 4 boxes that showed a check mark and an X corresponding to each one. So my theory is that there's 3 levels to evaluate a life. Number of years seems to be the easiest way, because like, the average lifespan is nowadays is like 67 to, or no, it's 70 something to 80 something, depending on gender and lifestyle choices, things like that. So age seems to be like the easiest one to grasp.
Yeah.
Like, so Morty made it 55 years. Cool. The pie chart, however, there's a line coming off of it that shows the number of years, but there's a large chunk of the pie chart that's not used, or is used, since we can't read it.
Yeah.
So the pie chart makes me wonder if, like, is it, like, overall happiness level? Is it overall quality of life? Is it meeting those set ideal goals of, like, the quote-unquote American dream that we talked about?
But would aliens know the American dream?
Well, because, like, let's look at this as in, like, let's go full theory crafting here, because, like, the Roswell alien sightings took place, like, in what, like, the 40s?
Yeah.
So if the aliens appeared in the 40s and were abducting people in that time frame, and that went on for many years to process that time frame, then it would make sense that they would start Roy in the 60s or 70s, because maybe that's when they reached to like, okay, humans are pretty much boring. I think we can figure this out from here, and like, let's just put it in this time frame and go from there.
Yeah.
So that would make sense. To me, at least, that's kind of the time frame it would start in, based on all of that, which leads to the time frame of the game. But like the overall happiness level, but they do show smartphones as well, so it's like they must still be watching and recording, which means that they did invade and they're just among us already, and they're out there.
Yeah,
I know they're out there.
I mean, the aliens abduct Roy from, or not abduct Roy, abduct Rick and Jerry to get this, in the simulation and stuff at one point. So alien life does know that Earth exists. They might not have to abduct, but they're obviously present at that time.
True, and they do know a fair amount about human culture and society based on the simulation.
Yeah.
That was done in that episode. So they still are watching in that world, per se.
The Federation, like, easily adapted to Earth as soon as it was, shoot in.
Oh, yeah, it looks like they set up within, like, the amount of, like, a week.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, we got this. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good to go. Next planet.
I'd like to think the reward system... I don't know. It's hard to judge, but, like, there's probably, like, a few key metrics. Like happiness and life, but it would be like impossible to, it would be like infinitely generate the outcomes. But if there's set points, I guess it's like how happy of a life you lived given those set points. I mean, it really depends on how the rules of the game work. Because if it's freedom to do whatever you want, the only thing you really could judge would be the length of life. Because happiness is relative to one's opinion.
Correct. And so that would be the hard thing is how do you determine like the amount of tickets? Like we saw 12.
Yeah.
And of course we could be wrong. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But we saw 12 tickets. So it's like, is that based on a high score system? Or is that based on the amount of time put into playing the game? Like, like you played Roy for 30 minutes, you made it to age 55. Yeah, here's 12 tokens.
Or you play till you die, here's your standard 12 tickets for paying X amount of money.
Right, yeah. Is it like a guaranteed amount of tickets, or is there actually like some time to reward system?
I like to think it's like the stats. Okay, so yeah, you lived to 55, here's what you did at this age, did at this age, because like the check marks and boxes, it's like, okay, athlete, check, wife, check, kid, check, job, check, things like that. Bird watching, weird, check.
Really wasted your 30s there, Morty, with that bird watching face. I love that line, by the way.
It's super great. I like to think it's kind of standard because it's relative. I mean, it really... to one's opinion on things. I mean, and that's where it's hard to get too deep into that. It's because, there's always someone to argue it and always someone to complain. So if you just give a standard, well, you could just say fuck all to everyone and just, here's your 12 tickets. Thanks for paying.
Right, but I mean, at the same time, I'm not against, diving into the logistics of it.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it very well could be a high score system. And
it could be, yeah.
That's kind of the thing, too, is, I totally want to, ask the writers, did you guys have, a system set up in your brain? Was there a thought process behind this, or is it just something that happened, or are you just looking for an easy out for this little mini story that you beautifully worked in?
Yeah. I mean, I like theory crafting it too. It's an interesting take because it could be so many possibilities, and it could be an alien's idea of human happiness. The only logical solution from a programming standpoint would be just to give a generic it doesn't matter how you live your life, we're not going to judge. You paid X amount of money, so here's X amount of tickets. From a game developer standpoint, from Rick and Morty, there is obviously a statistical chart, so it could very well be here is reward. But someone needs to ask. Justin and Dan when they see them, or get us tickets to PAX or something, or
introduce them to us, because I really am curious. I'm genuinely curious, and even if I get a half-assed answer, I think I'll be okay with that.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean,
even if it's just something like fucking nerds, I'm totally fine with that.
I'm pretty sure they would enjoy it because they're nerds too, obviously.
Yeah.
And they would have to tell us in the Rick voice. Be like, all right, dumbass, here's how Roy works. That condescending attitude Rick gives.
I don't know. I think I'd like to hear it from Morty as well too. Geez, why are you really going into this?
Yeah.
Do a horrible Morty impression.
That'd be brilliant.
Geez, Rick.
Oh, do we have to?
I'm going to let you dive into this part, because one thing I was curious about, and you seem to have a better understanding to explain it better than I do, is how the game is implanted into the player's mind. How does one live that life? Because it's VR to one aspect, but it's not at the same time.
So there has been actually many developments in our current understanding. Like, of course, there's like fantasy and science fiction versions, but like in the real sense, there's already ideas in like low implementation of putting like a chip, a small connector of, I don't know if it's magnetic or not, but it's like a plate within your nervous system to connect to your senses and your physical form to feel like touch and things like that. So the game could just hook up and touch into those senses, kind of like, as mentioned, the full dive in Sword Art Online, is they have a thing on their neck that everyone has to be able to use these, and when you put the helmet on and it connects to it, knocks you basically unconscious until you log in, because it fully takes your feelings and your brain power and everything into the game, you know. So there is like a connection, I would say, to your core systems that would allow that, which is dangerous because you could potentially kill someone that way. But
or at least get some really nasty bed sores.
Yeah, that too. Ooh. Yeah, you haven't logged out in 24 hours. Oh, God.
I've seen those, man. I've seen stage 3, stage 4 bed sores. They're really gross.
Yeah, nope. But I think that's probably how it does, unless it's, alien technology. You could just shoot laser beams in your head, which would be cool.
That's true. It is alien technology. It could be literally anything.
Yeah, because, like, what is the newer episodes? Episode 1, where he's escaping the Federation. He just beams himself into someone else. He becomes a different Rick just by shooting a little laser beam. So there could be just a simple... And he does rip off the helmet and stuff easier, whereas the connection type doesn't do that. So it's probably some science fiction hoodoo voodoo, but you can touch into the senses by using technology. It is possible.
So technical term with the hoodoo voodoo, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you know?
Well, I'm out of the tech industry, man. I don't know anymore.
Yeah. Oh, don't you know? Come on.
Oh, don't you? Oh, gee. Oh, gee. There go the Minnesota listeners.
Yeah, right. So, any idea on that, or?
I mean, my thought on it was like, the best example I could think of was like the Matrix, but even with the Matrix, you have to log out, quote unquote. Yeah. You have to find a way to get out. With Roy, it's almost like I could see it being like when the helmet goes on, it's almost some sort of like electrical neurological stimulation.
Yeah.
Of some sort. Obviously, we can't see inside the helmet. We don't know how the helmet works. Magnetism makes sense because that would make sense to some level.
Yeah.
Gosh, like it's
such a neat idea to think about.
It's such a cool concept to kind of really go into, but it's like, because again, it reminds me of like the brain in the vat, or simulation theory of some sort. Like it's like there's this device, this magical device that you wear that lets you experience another life to its full extent. I mean, you feel everything without the actual real-world consequences physically.
Yeah.
I imagine mentally they're there because Morty seemed to have some physical and mental reaction to certain things. That sense of, like, worry and care and, like, holy shit, I just died. What happened? Is this real? Am I dead? What's going on?
Yeah.
That actual anxiety and panic. Which is kind of cool.
It has to be a full dive system because there's a chair that they sit down and their eyes roll in the back of their head. So obviously their entire sense of self and the brain is being used into that device.
With the exception that Morty was standing. So that adds a whole new question. But even though it was Morty's first time, does he possess a whole new level of gameplay because Rick had to sit down to play?
I think it might be a comfort level, but didn't they move Morty to the chair?
No, Morty was standing the whole time.
Was he? I don't remember that. I'll have to look it up. But
yeah, he appears to be standing the whole time because he's away from the chair when Rick gives him credit, which I thought that was interesting too, that Rick actually gave Morty credit. He's like, 55 years, Morty, not too bad. Like, almost like he's slightly impressed, thinking like Morty would die in his 30s or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
which, to be fair, I would think the same thing.
He is standing, that's right. He put it on standing. But I guess if you're... if you have your legs locked or whatever and you're standing, I mean, you probably...
But he would black out from playing if he locked his knees.
Well, yeah, true. I wonder. There's probably something in the machine.
It's cool to explore that concept. It's like, oh man, like, and I can totally see you and I like revisiting this concept with like a couple beers and just really diving into it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, it's getting so close and real these days with virtual reality, augmented reality, and the deeper, people wanting to go deeper into virtual reality, and testing full dive on rats and shit like that. So
yeah, and so like to go into that a little bit, like, because I remember, I think like the first VR game I remember playing in an arcade, it wasn't really VR, but like you put this helmet over your head, and the screen was right where it should be with your eyes. And it was just a fixed camera position. I think it was like Beachhead.
Oh, I love that game. I was hoping you were going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, you do remember Beachhead. Okay, so it was like Beachhead. And like you had the little toggles next to your face, and like you would turn. And like at one point I was so immersed in the game, I forgot where I was standing on the platform.
Yep.
And like I died, and so I lifted it up, and all of a sudden I'm introduced back into the real world. And it's like, holy shit, I'm facing a direction I didn't think I was.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a really cool concept. And like I remember playing... on the what does Rick have? It was like the Vine or something like that, VR. And I was playing it was in the Steam Lab games. It was the archery defense thing where you're standing on, again, a fixed position.
Yeah.
Even though I had the ability to move around, I could move a little bit, but I was in a fixed position shooting arrows at stick figures.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, after the game ended and I went back to the holodeck and I popped off the VR, like, I was in a completely different part of the room than I thought I was. And I almost ran into a couch. It was pretty funny.
I remember Beachhead because I felt the same thing, because when you're blocked off, because it's not blacked out, but it's like blocked, it's with the black plastic or whatever. When you're playing Beachhead, I did the same thing. Is you spin and turn and so much, and you have such full concentration, your mind accepts this like as a new reality basically. And when it's over, you're like, whoa, I have to adjust, this is weird. And like doing VR and watching like the dinos come up and scare you and stuff, you're like, oh shit, this is so real, it seems so real, it's right in front of me, how is this not real? Because we base so much logic on our eyesight. And then like you end up like, oh, I don't remember this part of the room. Well, because you didn't see going there, you didn't, your mind was totally focused. It's like when you're driving, you're like, how did I get through the entire town? I don't remember driving any of it.
Oh, autopilot mode?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, that's terrifying. I've done that way too many times.
Yeah. I do it at least once a day.
It's like, did I stop at that light? Was that red?
Yeah.
Shit. No accident? Okay, keep going.
Step on the pedal. Go, go, go.
Got it, Morty.
But, yeah, so it's such a great topic. I really hope we get full dive, although then there has to be some rules, because man, humanity's gonna get a freaking shake-up once they get the ability to escape reality.
And we've seen movies kind of talk about that a little bit with like that full-blown like escaping reality in one form or another, and we could argue that gaming is almost like that as well, because I do use that temporarily to escape the stress of my life and my job.
Yeah.
As I'm sure most people.
It always has to end, though. That.
Right. But that's the thing with like a full dive like that. It could still technically end, because you could play so long that you don't actually eat and your body actually shuts down.
Yeah.
And there'd have to be some sort of like onboard monitoring system to make sure that the player doesn't actually die while playing the game. Because it's like you're so immersed, and like there could be something where like within the game it could, if the characters never ate or drank, it could block the natural receptors in your brain to tell you, hey dude, it's time to put food in the tank, otherwise we're gonna die.
Yeah. And it's funny because Sword Art did that too. They actually had like indicators for when your body was thirsty, and they actually had health monitors and shit like that on the device.
That's kind of I never watched this series, so like you're kind of the expert in that aspect.
Because like it's actually well thought. It's like, yeah, you got to put your, it's like a smartwatch. It has your heartbeat, your health, sitting, play time, shit like that. I mean, because if you just let it go too long, even experienced people like us, you get immersed long enough, it's real. Or, well, I guess we would be even worse candidates because we love living reality, so we would never want to come back.
Well, I remember, like, as a kid, I think I was in my second year of college or something like that. I got this game, I don't remember what it was, for like $20 from GameStop. Like, I'd been looking forward to playing it. I played it once with a buddy, and like I popped it in, and I invested like 6 hours of straight playthrough with it, and like didn't realize I hadn't eaten or taken a break or anything, and like I started to get worse at the game, and then I realized like I was having a headache, and then I realized that like I was nauseous, and like it didn't click until I tried to eat something. It's like I haven't eaten in like 6 hours.
That's
like,
the worst.
And it's like, but nothing sounded good because I couldn't keep it down, and it's like, shit, I'm gonna die. Like, you know, like I live by myself. There's no one here. I'm totally fucked.
Yeah.
And had to like force myself to eat something like quick in the house, and then when I felt a little better, like I hopped in the car, left, and went to a restaurant and ordered a big fat meal, which probably wasn't good for my system either, but it was something to keep me going. And I learned that lesson from there on. It's like, shit, I need to like remember to eat and drink and sleep. The Witcher 3 was a great example of that as well.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about that one of these days.
See, that's the thing, too, to go back to, like, Roy's, like, all the ideas of full dive and things like that, you have a body limitation. Like, even your brain... So I guess it relies on how fast your brain reacts and you can generate stuff without overtaxing the rest of your body. But Roy happened within, like, minutes, I guess, to Rick's time, you know? Whereas, like, a full dive is actually real time, like, in-game out.
Right, and so that kind of goes into the concept of, like, it has to operate faster. Like, it must give your brain, like, some sort of mental boost or something.
Yeah.
And since it is alien technology, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, it is. Since it is, like, science fiction, it could be. Yeah, that's interesting. Now I want to know, damn it, guys. You have to watch our podcast and freaking let us know.
Yeah, I really want to know. It's bugging the shit out of me. So let's step down a wee bit on the theory crafting and just go back into the fun of it. I'm really curious how much it costs to play Roy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you said there was a
totally
token sound, right?
Yeah, there was a moment where Rick put in something that made, like, the classic coin token sound of it, like, dropping into the machine, which we all know by heart.
Oh, yeah.
Or should know by heart. But, like, it's a token. It looked like it was yellow, so your standard quote-unquote coin. But I'm really curious, like, how much it is. Like, if I had to, like, really predict and guess, I could easily see Roy being a $5 game, which sounds ridiculous for an arcade.
Flurbos, hello?
Sorry, Flurbos.
Yeah, I could see it being expensive. I mean, geez, how much they charge nowadays at, like, Chuck E. Cheese or Dave & Best.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous. I remember going to an arcade and, like, playing, like a Time Crisis game was, like, the equivalent of, like, $1.50 to play. And it's like, are you fucking high?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, 50 cents? Yeah, that's respectable. I get that. 75, if it's a good game, I could totally see spending the extra quarter on it. I'm not saying, like, you know, where's the old quarter machine or, like, the penny machine or whatnot, but, like, 50 cents used to be the old standby, and clearly I'm dating myself here. But, yeah I could see Roy being, like, a $5 game, no problem.
Yeah, no kidding. I guess we don't know what the direct correlation between Flurbos and like, our currency is.
Dollar?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like Flurbos would be more. Because if Rick sold an antimatter gun, either he is just really doesn't care how much he sells it for, or Flurbos are horrifically expensive. Because the look on his face is, like, priceless. He's got this face of, like, oh, fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
do you know what you could get for 3,000 Flurbos?
Yeah, 3,000 Flurbos, that's right.
Blitz and Chits!
And so, like, an entire afternoon of Blitz and Chits. So, like, okay, so your standard afternoon is, like, from 1 to 5, 6?
6, yeah.
Something like that. So, let's say 6 hours is an afternoon. So if you're bowling 3,000 Flurbos, Blitz and Chits must be, like, horrifically expensive to play at.
I mean, he's drinking beer and shit like that, too, so...
Yeah, but if, like, you have games that are fully immersive like Roy, shit, man, I could totally see why Blitz and Chits 3,000 Flurbos would just be spent like that.
Oh yeah,
You know?
it's funny. They had like the old like rollerball. What is that game called?
Oh, skee-ball?
Skee-ball, yeah.
Oh, man, skee-ball's so much fun.
And then I'll like not plinko, but those kind of like guide the little coin into the certain slots for prizes and stuff. It's funny how
yeah.
non-imaginative they were about all the other games besides Roy.
Well, they were and they weren't. It was kind of interesting because it's like, you know, you have Roy, this super advanced game, this massively advanced game, and you got skee-ball in the back because skee-ball's classic.
Yeah.
Like, but then like at the same time, it looked like there was the old tabletop Pac-Man.
Oh, was there?
I think so, because, like, oh, man, I gotta load it up now. Because it looked like there were the two aliens that were just playing it back and forth.
Yeah, there's, like, Whack-A-Mole, but it's, like, Whack-A-Tentacle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then you have the two bug creatures playing the tabletop. Yep, I see it.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm not telling a lie now.
No. Yeah, then you have, like, the Plinko. And then they have...
Or the old pinball arcade games, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to go back because there's an arcade one that has like a desert dune looking one with the moon in the background. I swear I know that freaking cover from somewhere. Anyways, that's off topic, but now I gotta come down to your house and go to Dave and Buster's. Gee, thanks.
Sorry, man.
It's alright. So yeah, I want to see Rick's playthrough. I really do.
Oh, dude, totally. I would kill to see even like an after credits thing of Rick's playthrough of Roy.
Let's
that would be amazing.
See like a season ender of just.
Well, yeah, so let's talk about that because like I thought that was a really cool idea you had. On like, I'll let you say it. It's your idea.
So my idea was that basically you see Roy throughout the episode and you know the crazy stuff that happens. Well, at the end of the episode, it'd be just like Rick taking off the helmet after all that crazy shit happened, and it's like how Rick would have played, you know, Roy, Life Well Lived, or maybe Morty, or he goes back and plays it or whatever. In a crazy aspect, I think that would be a really cool episode. It's just the whole time it has nothing to do with Rick and Morty, but it actually does because it's like. You know, Rick or Morty and another character. And then at the end, they pull the helmet off. And you're like, oh, shit, they're playing Roy the whole time. Now it all makes sense, you know?
Well, and yeah, that's the thing that would be like the total mindfuck on it is like if, like, let's say like the last episode in the series of Rick and Morty, heaven forbid that day ever comes, we know it will, where like all of a sudden, like, Rick grabs like his head and pulls off like an imaginary helmet. And it's literally nothing more than like, an alien playing Rick or something, or Rick playing himself, and like kind of goes like, well, I guess I'd do it again, you know, or maybe it's, or even, just thought of this, maybe it's something like, I guess it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And so it's a total simulation of what it would be like if he went back to be with his daughter Beth and grandchildren.
Yeah.
Like, that would be an awesome way to end the series.
Total, like, mindfucked all those theory crafters.
Oh, yeah. No, it mindfucks everything because in the grand scheme of things, everything was just a fucking simulation.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters. Like, which goes with Morty's quote, you know, nobody exists on purpose, nobody belongs anywhere, everybody's gonna die, come watch TV.
Yeah. It would fit in so well. It's like, none of it matters.
And Rick even says that a million times over. Like, you know, like the answer is don't think about it, Morty. Don't think about the possibilities because it doesn't bring you any happiness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could get in the brain and the vat theory there because maybe don't think about it because it just stresses the program too much. That's simulating no life, you know. Don't try to break it because you're gonna break the programming of the game, Morty. Yeah. God, that's cool. I would really like that. We just gotta find him and pitch it now.
Oh yeah, no, like totally have to find a way to pitch that to them. But then it would totally be like the end all be all at that point, like.
Yeah.
Or actually, that would be a good way to end the series, and then if they ever wanted to pick it up again, start it over.
Yeah. Because I mean, they don't have to explain jack with that ending, like at all. They just be like, okay, well, either it was one day or just that instance, or who knows what happened before and after. I mean, they could just start it up and pick it up and be like, oh yeah, I was at Blitz and Chits all day.
Yeah, and it almost, even with that answer too, like it almost just shows that it's just maybe with Rick playing the game, simulating all of that, it just kind of loops itself at that point where it's like, okay, so this is what's going to happen if I go home. Fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's all for the ride again.
Except his style is never to go back to the carpet store, so...
Right, so then it leaves it open to where it could be almost like a new adventure.
Yeah.
Because if there's infinite possibilities and infinite timelines and infinite realities, then yeah, like Rick could totally just say, no, fuck it, I'm gonna do this.
That means infinite Rick and Morty? Woo.
Exactly. It could go on forever and ever and ever just by implying that final moment.
You hear that, Justin and Dan? Never let Rick and Morty end.
Yeah, dude, guys, seriously, if you take that idea, we just want credit. We don't want payment. We just want credit. It is the best way to immortalize ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to make any major contributions to society. I'm sorry.
Nope. Done and past.
I'm not going to change the world. I know this already.
Nope. I will order a pizza, though. Life changer.
Oh. Feel bad for the reality of you that didn't order the pizza.
Oh, yeah. That guy's a bastard.
Okay.
Real Cronenberg, that one, really. So I'm out of ideas. Do you want to move on to the question, or do you have anything else to cover?
Let's move on to the question, because otherwise we could just talk this to death.
That's true.
So question of the podcast, tell us your thoughts on Roy. Seriously, like, we're really curious. This was an actual really fun experiment. I thought about this idea for like a week, and once I had all my outlines laid out, I spent 2 hours typing up the guidelines for us to follow.
Yeah.
And I watched that video probably 1,000 times over. Okay, that's a little unrealistic. Probably at least like 50 times over. So, like, tell us what you think about Roy, A Life Well Lived. Yeah. And if any of you guys know Harmon or Rollin, seriously, like, introduce them to us, have them talk to us. I'm really curious. Like, it would be really cool to meet them and just bullshit with him for a little bit. You can tell we're total fanboys because you're not stopping me and I'm still talking about it.
I'll let rambling go. I'm a space cadet, but I want this to continue because, like I said, the up and coming day and age is virtual reality or augmented reality. So
yeah, we'll definitely have to do a podcast talking about VR and our experiences and things like that. And once it becomes more affordable for us both to be able to play it.
It's better, man. I want to go slay a dragon. As soon as I slay a dragon, peace out with this life. I'm out, you know.
You technically could with Skyrim on PS4 with PlayStation VR.
Yeah, but can you imagine, like, I wouldn't be able to flex or anything in Skyrim. Like, the combat's so stiff. Like, can you imagine that in VR? Like, my arms hurt. I can only swing in one direction. Anyway, so that wraps it up for this one. If you guys have any comments, let us know. We'll be happy to answer. But this is the Flickering Torch Podcast.
So this is Mr. DeadScott.
And Smite.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.